Welcome to Story Talks, where we discuss the practices that engage, motivate, develop, retain, and attract people to businesses. We'll give you principles and tools based on real-world stories to leverage listening and storytelling to become a better leader and management professional. Story Talks is produced by Narativ, a company that focuses on personal storytelling for business.
Welcome to Story Talks. As you all know, Julianne Ryan and I, Jerome DeRoy, discuss the ways that businesses engage their employees and customers on this podcast. And we are always interested in how storytelling and listening practices can help increase engagement. So we bring on guests who can illuminate certain topics in a variety of different fields. And we always try to relate that back to storytelling and listening and leave you with practical tips that you can implement. So today, I'm very happy because our guest is Karen Schoellkopf, and she's the founder and CEO of Leap Fund, which was created in response to something that I wasn't aware before I met Karen. It was something called the benefits cliff issue. And the reason that Karen and I met was through the Robin Hood Foundation, which was one of the supporters of Leap Fund, and one of the reasons even that Leap Fund exists. And I really, after a few different sessions on storytelling with Karen, I thought it would be a good idea to bring her on to this podcast, because this is really an issue that not enough people know about, that is gaining traction, especially in the context of the Great Resignation that everyone's talking about. And so I wanted to have Karen here to illuminate that subject. And I'm going to say just a few more words about Leap Fund and Karen. So Leap Fund actually creates products that empower optimism, financial and career growth, future planning, and security for the working families that need it most. And in 2021, Karen presented Leap Fund's work about benefits cliff to the United States House of Representatives Committee on Rules. So Karen, welcome.
Hi, everyone's favorite House committee, the Rules Committee.
That's right. I just thought, out of all the accomplishments and achievements that I saw on LinkedIn that Leap Fund has gotten, I thought that was the one, that I thought we should bring that up today. And the reason I wanted to do that, and I did that, is because what you explained to me, Karen, and I'd love for you to tell our listeners as well, is that really our representatives don't seem to know much about this. And indeed, a lot of employers don't really know much about this. So maybe you could take us back to, who you are and what Leap Fund is. How did it come to be? What was sort of the aha moment? And what is this benefits cliff that I've now put into the spotlight?
Yeah, thanks so much. And thanks for having me.
Yeah.
My name is Karen Schoellkopf. I am the founder and CEO of Leap Fund. And we're obsessed with this thing called the benefits cliff. So we started in 2018, actually out of a fellowship out of Blue Ridge Labs, which basically we were tasked to create technology and tools for low-income New Yorkers. And amidst the research that we did, there was this one sort of throwaway line in some pre-read we did where it was like, hey, and just FYI, if you do anything with cash or cash infusions for folks that receive public benefits, they might hit this benefits cliff and you can destroy their finances. And we were like, that seems like more than a footnote. What is that actually? And so we spent the time, me and a few other fellows spent the time digging into what is this benefits cliff thing. We are user-centered, human-centered design. So we went first to public benefits recipients and the community-based organizations that are providing services to folks receiving public benefits. And we asked them, hey, is this a thing that you've heard of? Is this a thing that has ever happened to you or someone that you have served? And the answer was overwhelmingly yes. Yes, this is a huge problem. And so we said, okay, this is a problem. Interesting. Let's talk to some of the government agencies that distribute the benefits. Let's start to talk to some of the folks shaping the policy and legislators. And it was a very different story depending on where you sit in understanding what the problem is. Some folks sort of said, hey, I think we already solved this benefits cliff thing. You don't have to worry about this. Other folks said, yeah, this is a problem, but there's a ton of other things that are higher priority. And then others said, no, I've never heard of this. Why should I focus on this as an issue for my constituents? So this was illuminating to us that you have a huge gap in understanding between folks that are experiencing the benefit system and the ramifications of moving ahead in your career, in your job, making major life decisions, and the rest of the structures around that, whether it be government structures, employment structures, even how your household is configured. The biggest issue with benefits cliffs is no one knows they're going to hit a benefits cliff until after it's already happened to them, which is why we focused on this issue. We created a calculator to get more transparency for folks to be able to make those major life decisions with additional information. That's sort of like where we got to. We've created programs and products around this benefits cliff, but ultimately it is an issue with policy. And so we would love to see the policy changed so that folks can follow their ambitions and goals and move ahead in their lives.
So if I understand correctly, so that means that basically, if I am offered a raise at a time when I'm getting benefits, whether that's for childcare or whatever it is, because of a certain, and this is, you were saying it's more about low income, right? So at certain levels of income, people get certain benefits. And then when their income gets raised, then they will lose those benefits because the income is supposed to now cover that. But the reality is that raise often doesn't cover what the benefits would cover. So people are actually turning down raises. Is that right?
Exactly. People turn down raises and more hours out of fear of hitting this benefits cliff because, like I said, they don't know until after it's already happened to them. So they're making strategic decisions to avoid throwing their family into a financial catastrophe by turning down those raises, not taking that job, and ultimately being stuck in their career and unable to move ahead.
Karen, what are some of the communication challenges you've encountered as you've taken on this initiative?
I would say when we started, there was a lot less understanding. We talked to a lot of folks in a lot of different areas, and particularly we have some solutions for employers. And when we started talking to employers in 2019, people sort of looked at us like, what are you talking about? I've never heard of this. Or what has also happened to us is, I'd be talking with an employer, they'd say, yeah, we have had people turn down raises before. And I'd say, oh, that's interesting. Do you know why? And they would say, no. I said, did you ask? And they said, no. And so it's sort of this interesting gap of understanding between the worker who's less inclined to share this information because, this is their personal life and is outside of the job. And on the employer side, the employer may feel that, hey, I don't want to be involved in my workers' personal lives. I have to be the boss here. I have to be, there needs to be a separation. And so there is a gap between the worker and the employer of understanding. Now, since the pandemic hit, since March 2020, when hundreds of thousands of people were laid off, businesses closed in droves, and employers found themselves negotiating with workers about what would be best. Should they be furloughed? Should they stay on part-time? They started to understand the power of unemployment insurance and how workers were weighing what unemployment had to offer versus what the employer could. And so this is a concept that is related to a benefits cliff. This is exactly what it is, that some benefit outside of what the employer salary is, it weighs into the net income for the household. So it's the same. It's the exact same. And so, yeah, there's been a broader understanding of like, oh, yes, we went through this. We do understand that there are other factors outside of what we're offering that can weigh into, decisions a person's making.
I'm sure there could be a whole segment built around that little mini dialogue you provided for us about what that person on the other side was asking or not asking, and what are some of the assumptions that were going on. So,
well, and in fairness, I would say in fairness, it's because it's no one's job right now. Like the government doesn't track who turns down raises or who doesn't take the job. They're tracking who takes new jobs. And on the employer side, this may not be something that they're aware that they should be tuned into. And so this is why we are trying to get the message out about the issue, that we all have a role to play, and it can be a positive one.
So I was curious, when I was researching your background so I could be prepped for our conversation, I noticed you have a MFA in photography. So I love hearing backstories. So how did that help you pivot and inform how you're problem solving, how you look at issues from a creative point of view?
Yeah, I do have a it's not a direct path in my life of what my job
Nothing
is to what
really. There wasn't a degree in benefits cliff solving.
No, nor was there at the time a degree in product management when I shifted into that in tech. Nor was there a huge definition around what the job artist assistant is. I was, I have a master in fine arts in photography. And what I would say is that in this degree program, I went to school of visual arts, and it was intensive. There was a lot of, so the cool thing about making art is that you will go deep into the philosophy and the heady stuff up here in the brain space, but you can't just keep it there. You need to bring it down into stuff that exists in the physical world. So you can't have one without the other. And so I have spent my career taking great ideas and visions and translating those into real things that exist in the world and function, however they were meant to function. If it's sculpture, great, it's a sculpture. If it's a piece of technology, great, it's a piece of technology. The thing that I very much appreciate about my training is that it taught me to do both, to be in conversation with everyone that's ever been before you, in the arts. That was a big thing that we talked about, that you're not just in conversation with your peers, you're in conversation with everyone that's ever made art. And also that you can't just talk about it, you gotta actually make something. So
that was an excellent, artful answer on the spur, and that alone is a great example of how you think and how you approach and brainstorm. So well done, you. I think that was a wonderful pivot on the spur of the moment. Okay, thank you. I'm going to be quiet now and listen to Jerome's question.
Well, I mean, I love the, whenever we have a guest on, what interests us a lot is the journey, essentially, and I am noticing that we're a young podcast at this moment, but even the few guests that we've had, no one really has had a very direct path to even if there was a degree that is pretty relevant to what they're doing now. There's always a moment, and I've started to call it a little bit of an aha moment as opposed to the turning point, which is sort of always what we talk about. But there's also like or maybe something that didn't go as well as we planned. But I kind of like the aha moment because it sort of puts it back into your hands as the sort of heroine of your own story, where it's like, this is the path that I'm going on now. And, and it may change again. And I guess my question here, I think I do have a question, which is that, I wonder for you, the path that you're on now, I mean, you talked to us about, finding this issue as part of the Blue Labs. Was that what it was called?
Blue Ridge Labs.
Blue Ridge Labs.
Mhm.
As part of that sort of experience and seeing that's where we want to focus on. But I wonder, even before that, for you, what was kind of the aha moment of, maybe there were a few, of going from MFA in photography to then product management in the tech world, and then what you're doing now? Is there something that you can see as a kind of a through line, or a moment that you said, this is where I'm going to take all these skills into?
I very much appreciate your positive framing. There's also, marketplace factors that are at work. The arts as a field is not necessarily a field that is as lucrative as others.
Yeah.
But
Tell
also,
me about
it. But also, I spent a decade working in the arts. I really enjoyed my time doing that. I really enjoyed my day-to-day. I've experienced so much that I value and informs even decisions I make today in a business setting. I learned a lot of empathy from one of the artists that I worked for 4 years, and that there's this phrase: "Business is business. Don't take it personally." And that's not what she did. Business is how you conduct yourself in the world. And so I took a lot of strength, and I try and channel that as best I can. I think it's just that there's no set path. There was the aha moment for me, even when it felt like there was going to be a set path. I was brought up by the boomer generation. They told me I would be able to get a job. I would stay in it for 35 years. I'd get a pension. I'd have a union, and I'd be set.
Absolutely.
And that is just not how life ever presented to me. I know that there are others that maybe that path was available to them, but it just wasn't something that I was able to see. So I got scrappy, I got creative, and I started trying to carve out a spot where I could use my brain and my skills and create. And those are the places that I have tried to contribute.
That's great. I mean, that's to me the through line, the creativity of it all, and the contribution. It sounds to me like making an impact is something that's important to you, and because I'm assuming you could have continued a career in product management in the tech world, and not necessarily.
Well, and I might again.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
At some point in the future. It's that, I was talking with this young woman who reached out, and she wanted to do an informational interview. And she asked me this really great question. And she said, how do you know which things that you're interested in are just a hobby, and which things are going to be that you should pursue as a job? And she's a recent graduate. And I was like, oh, you pursue them all right now. And you continue to pursue them all. First of all, just a hobby is such a diminutive way to talk about all of the ways that we are multifaceted humans. Second, there can be real joy in not having something you love be how you make your money. There's a freedom in that as well. My advice to her, which maybe it was good advice, maybe not, was just keep following the things that spark your interest. Keep following those threads, whatever they may be, and keep seeing where they lead.
I love that.
Wonderful.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice, I think. So just going back and kind of going towards the landing runway here. What's the story now with Leap Fund in terms of, we sort of got a sense from 2018 to now, and at the beginning, very much about raising awareness, it sounds like, and even educating employers and House representatives, it turns out. But now that, the 2020 and 2021 have happened, and it seems to be more in people's consciousness, this idea of the benefits cliff, where do you go from now? How do you find the story of how you present Leap Fund? How is it evolving? Is it evolving, or is it still about, we still have to really raise awareness about what this problem is so that people can do something about it, or what is the what's the evolution?
Yeah, so we're definitely still working hard to raise awareness,
Mm,
especially with the context of the pandemic, with people being able to take advantage of these cash infusions through the pandemic in the form of stimulus checks, with the the reworking of the Build Back Better Act, with expansion of childcare access. Like, there's a lot of things changing that we're trying to make sure that Benefits Cliff winds up in those conversations, so that these policies can continue to evolve as well and include the important bits that need to be there.
mm,
Our story is always evolving. I will say, when we started in 2018, that was probably the biggest feedback we got was, you really got to work on that. You gotta really, you gotta hammer something out there. And so we've tried all different versions of stories, and we will continue to, which is why I did connect with you, Jerome. We're always open to how we might better tell our story. There's
mm,
different ways that land in different moments. There's different bits that resonate with some folks and not others. And the better I can be at connecting people to what it is we're doing, the more they will come along with us on that journey of what we're
mm,
trying to do, how we're trying to tackle this problem.
mm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I appreciate your honesty. I'm sure others will, because you're saying that your life experience right now it's been layered. It's been pivoting. It's been learning and listening as you go. I think sometimes some of the messages out there in media is that you get one instant story and that's your package and it's all neat and tidy to your next meeting, and then you get more feedback and you have to change it again. So I think a lot of people are just going to learn actually from that, that it
And I will
evolves. Your
say,
story evolves.
Yeah.
it does. And also, this is another skill I really honed in my graduate degree in the arts, is how to take critical feedback. We had critique every 2 weeks with the chairman. He and the rest of the students would come up to your artwork and pick it apart and destroy you every two
Oh
weeks.
my God.
And you learn to grow a thick skin there. I know
Mm,
it seems pretty low stakes. So some people said some stuff about your art, but this is the thing you're creating. And learning how
mm,
to not let your ego get in the way, and to really open up your ears, listen to the
mm,
feedback. Not all of it is useful, but learning to pick out which bits are, and then actioning on those. That is something that I continue to work on and grow, but something that I got many frameworks in my graduate degree uh,
mm.
to begin that journey.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I know that's going to be a pull quote for sure.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. Really a wealth of practical information and advice. I think even just for our listeners who may not be close to this issue. First of all, I think you really did a great job of just raising the awareness here and kind of educating people around this. And then the second thing, I think there are really some very practical tips that people can take away. Like you said, Julian, that stories evolve. That's certainly something I'm taking away, and is reinforcing that belief that I've had for a long time, is that there isn't one story. It's not a one size fits all, and you have to be open to that evolving. It's kind of like those comedians that go up on stage and they get a laugh 10 times in a row, and then they're so they'll, okay, well, that's what works. And then the 11th, 12th, 13th time, oh, that didn't work so well. I wonder what's going on. Well, you have to evolve it, right? And your audience is not the same every time. And it's the same with stories. And I think the second thing you just talked about, the relationship between listening and the story you're telling, right, is that you really, that critical feedback that you were taking in, it would be very easy and understandable, by the way. I would empathize if you shut down your listening in the face of that, because it's hard to take. But actually, if you open up, then something new emerges and your story will evolve from that feedback. So there's this constant loop between listening and telling, which is one of the things that we talk about a lot at Narrative. And you kind of have to start there, where other people are, as opposed to, maybe with wherever you are, or your ego, et cetera. Kind of set it aside, which is hard, but then, that'll make your story better.
Yeah, there's this instinct where you're like, why aren't they getting it? I can't make it any more clear. And I empathize.
Yeah.
Yes. And you also have to create connection, you have to meet people halfway. You need to meet them where they are, and they will come towards you as well. But if you get resistance in a certain place, and then you get resistance in that place again, it means I'm losing people along the way here, and it's on the same issue. This is going to keep coming up. If I don't learn how to address this is just going to continue to come up with no way to speak to it. So it's like a practice. Like, it's not there's nothing, you're right, nothing's ever set. What is it? There's can't count on anything except death and taxes. Your story will always change. Your job will change. Your life will change. And the way that you talk about all of it changes because you keep growing.
So who should we be talking about on your behalf? I have some ideas, but we weave all our guests into our stories as we tell people what we've been working on, what we've been thinking about. So we want to get the word out because you're doing an amazing job there.
So we are, we actually created a website. Speaking about people's questions that kept coming up, we created a website to be like, hey, great, we created a primer for you about benefits cliffs. So it's at benefitscliffs.com. You can go there. You can read more about the concept about a benefits cliff. It sounds really simple when you hear it, and then you go to explain it to someone, and you may find that you don't have the words. Benefitscliff.com has the words for you, so that it makes it easier to explain it. It also has a lot around the metrics and studies that have been done around benefits cliffs. And also around the policy, both proposed policy platforms by other organizations, and also what you can do to raise awareness and contribute to helping to solve this issue.
Thank you so much.
Well, wonderful. Thanks so much, Karen. I really want to thank you again for joining us and educating us, and also giving great advice on whoever's on a career path. Maybe they feel stuck or something like that, and have a hesitation because you're not exactly, whatever you did as a degree doesn't quite fit the box of where you want to be. It's okay. Go with it. Let's find the skills that match and get the skills that you need, but just keep moving, and it's normal that everything always evolves. So thanks. I thought that was a great message. And yes, so benefitscliff.com if you want to learn more about Karen and Leap Fund in particular, and what you might be able to do to contribute and help solve this issue. That would be great. If you want to learn more about listening and storytelling and a lot of the topics that we talked about today, actually, and how to do that for yourself, how to make your story better, you can go to narativ.com. That's narativ.com. On this podcast, Story Talks, which you can find everywhere you find podcasts, especially our homepage. Our host is Buzzsprout. So if you go to Buzzsprout and then search for Story Talks, you'll find us that way. You will find other guests who talk about financial health, financial wellness. And so it's kind of interesting. It's almost like we have a little mini series here where we look at the relationship between employees and employers on that level, and what can employers do that's more than just raising salaries. So go over to Story Talks on buzzsprout.com and learn more about all of that. And of course, reach out to either myself, Jerome DeRoy, or Julianne Ryan, my wonderful co-host. And we're both on the Narativ website and the team, so you can reach out to us that way. All right. Well, Karen, again, thank you so much. It was really great to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Nice to see you both.
Great to see you too. All right.
Narativ Story Talks. For more information on the narrative listening and storytelling method, and how it can help your business, go to narativ.com.